Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about operations because in in the market that we're in right now, so you're very much focused and have been building out the growth ops footprint, right? The growth ops belief system and all things that we need to do, particularly in an era with a lot of economic uncertainty now
Mhm.
and questions about where to find growth. Like, well, so let's just start with at the beginning. How do you define growth ops? How is that different from, is that marketing ops plus sales ops? Is it RevOps? Is it something different? What's the difference between growth ops and all these other ops?
Growth ops is the complete orchestration of the business operationally. It's like the new COO 2.0,
Mm-hmm.
where instead of being so focused operationally on like the legal and the accounting and finance of a COO typically has historically. Now we're moving into this era of growth operations is looking across all those areas of the business and how they're orchestrated together to move things as quickly and efficiently as possible with the highest amount of margin, quite honestly, and the highest amount of customer long-term value and low customer acquisition cost. That's what people are talking about. You're seeing a huge trend up with customer success. One of the things Helix did was it acquired one of the greatest customer success companies out there called Growth Molecules. And so we're working and partnered. Helix and Growth Molecules are partnered together to work so that we're getting a complete visibility from the customer perspective. Then we need to look at it from a partner perspective. We need to look at it from just a general business. We need to look at it from the employee perspective. So growth operations is literally like the overarching umbrella for RevOps, go to market ops, sales ops, marketing ops, partner ops, all the ops, right? So
If you got ops,
it is. It's
growth ops
like
is for you.
what the ops. So I think when we get, it's crazy because when RevOps was coming about, I had this conversation with some of the people who were very influential in getting revenue operations is the coin term, and I kept saying, "Man,
Yeah.
it's really limiting." And the reason it's so limiting is because it's very selfish. It's about revenue. Well, when you talk about revenue to a client, it's kind of off-putting, isn't it? You're just like, don't you care about growth? Growth is a shared thing. Growth is a thing that brings people together, right? When you have shared experience, you grow from those things. You don't care about, I mean, you do. Everyone cares about revenue at the end of the day, running a business. But if you think about it from growth, you get a lot more value out of growth than you do revenue. So when you're able to go, I opened up myself up into a new market because I took a certain path to get here because I looked at the operations and thought, hey, if we could get this thing done with legal and finance more quickly because we included them in our process. So let's go into an example. So market
Yeah.
demand funds, MDFs, partners, right? So one of the things that happens is there's a holdup to get a PO to do a MDF request, get that approved, get that paid out to the partner, and go through all the things. And so it's a holdup. So if you can fix those things that are holdups, you would not look at a RevOps person and be like, "Can you fix that?" necessarily. You'd be like, "Man,
Mm.
who do I turn to for that?" And if you think about growth operations, you think of that definition and the way that I describe that, it would make sense, right? Some
Yeah.
RevOps organizations are more involved than others, but I do think that if we're going to shoot in a direction in operations to take us to that executive, to take us to that, you know, integral board seat as an ops person being a part of that team, that it needs to be all encompassing and there can be focus zones, but it needs to be all encompassing. And that's why I made the comment earlier about it's the new COO, which is really exciting. And I don't think we're going to call it a chief growth officer. Marketing kind of grabbed that. Ops needs to
Right.
be in the title. So maybe it's just COO. We'll see. I'm very
Well,
excited.
I it's an I agree, and I think that this is it's the right attitude and the right denominator to put on all of this stuff. Right? Is what's the shared growth together? It's a universal concern to the firm, to your clients and customers, to your partners. Right? It's a shared culture. Um, and folks that kind of have come up on a more traditional ops um, career path, say. I mean, I know you do a lot of advising to company leaders, firm leaders, but I know you do a lot of mentoring for folks on their career path as well. So how do you talk to people earlier in their career path about how they can set themselves up for this broad-based growth ops lens to their career and thriving in it?
So it depends on the stage of the career, but let's start from like your first 5 years and you're getting started out and you think you want to be in operations. Get a very wide breadth of experience in the functional areas. So if you're in sales and you have an opportunity to be like, I can shadow or I can do something where I'm learning about the AP process, I'm learning about legal contracts, I'm learning a bit about marketing. Become a generalist as much as possible to really understand the functions of a business because you need to understand that to then scale it back to let's go to the ops level, right? The ops level is like, again, it's a neurosystem. So if you think about all these things, it's like here's an arm and here's a leg and here's the spine and the brain. How do these things all work together? It's getting a general understanding of each of those functional areas. And then I think as you move forward, and maybe it's at the 3 year, maybe it's a 5 year, it just depends on the types of business people are in. Sometimes it's longer than that. Typically, you'll go into, all right, I need to, as somebody moving up in my career, you need to be able to teach it. I believe that in moving forward in a career, that if you can break something down simply for another person to explain what it is, you're ready to move to the next level, right? And being a, a competitive figure skater growing up, it's like you land the jump the first time, and then you land it the 500th time. Those are two very different landings, right? One's just like muscle memory. One is like, I'm starting muscle memory. So I think with people coming into this from a career growth, you need to get to the muscle memory and get to the muscle memory in the areas that you want to be focused in, but make sure that you're trying those other areas out and getting at least an understanding where you would know how to have a conversation with somebody cross departmentally, because that cross departmental communication, the your effectiveness there is the difference between somebody who's going to move up into leadership than somebody who will not, as a soft skill. Being able to have an intelligent conversation about like, hey, this legal contract, I know we've got a master services agreement, I know we have SOWs, I know we have all these different things. Get to know what those things are so that you're not having those conversations anymore because it's muscle memory. There's some of
Yeah.
those foundational things that everybody is going to have to do sitting in whatever functional area they're in. I think contracts is a big one, right? I think understanding general communications, like how to project manage. Project management is such a huge piece as well, because the more that you can effectively project manage, usually the more volume that you can add onto your plate because you're doing that. Because you're
Yeah.
very organized and being like, hey, these are things that I need to get done, and you're planning your day around those things to be as effective and efficient as possible.